Alright, it's time for another video about planes, and I've got something quite interesting. Now, if you've ever been to a Home Depot, you've probably seen one of these lying around. I'm talking, of course, about the Buck Brothers 3-inch block plane. Now, I don't go to Home Depot that often, but when I walked in a couple weeks ago, this was 50% off, and that meant I was able to pick it up for less than $5. And to be honest, I've always been kind of interested how a cheap plane like this performs. So let's go ahead and find out. Now, the first thing I noticed when I picked this up is that it's actually quite heavy. And a lot of these cheaper planes are made out of lighter materials like aluminum, but this one actually seems to be made out of some kind of cast iron, which feels pretty good. So let's take it out of the package and check it out. And here it is. And I gotta say, it doesn't look all that bad. The finish is a little bit messy here and there, but other than that, I think it's an alright looking little plane. Now, I just put this on a scale and it weighs exactly 200 grams. And the only thing I have that kind of comes close to it is this Lie-Nielsen 102 block plane. Now, this one weighs about 400 grams, but it's also about twice the size, so the weight really isn't that bad. Other than that, the finish on these parts is actually alright. There's no sharp edges or anything, and it's looking pretty good. The blade, of course, is very thin, and I can feel a huge burr on this side, so I don't think this is going to do a lot of cutting, but let's try it out anyway. I've got a scrap piece of pine here, and I'm not expecting it to perform well out of the box, but I'm going to try it anyway. So as you can see, it's pretty much just scraping the wood instead of cutting it. So it's not gonna do much good right out of the box. So I'm gonna put a little bit of work into this plane and see how well I can get it to perform. Now, the sole on this plane is actually pretty good. It's nice and flat. It's just a little bit rough, and there's kind of a burr going on around all of these edges. So I'm gonna smooth it out a little bit on my flattening stone. And while I'm working on the sole, I'm also going to clean up this blade a little bit. So I've been going at it for a little over 30 minutes now, and the sole is looking nice and shiny. Next up, I'm going to sharpen the blade. So I finally managed to get a nice sharp edge on the blade, and that really was the most difficult part of tuning this plane, because the blade is just made out of a metal that is extremely soft, and it's so soft that you just keep on turning a burr on the side opposite to the one you're working on. So I don't think this is going to hold an edge very well, but it sure is sharp right now. So let's go ahead and see how it performs. So as you can see, the results aren't great. I've managed to get some halfway decent chafings, but it's just very hard to control the depth of cut. And that's because the locking mechanism right here just doesn't lock that blade in very well. It just keeps on moving back a little bit. Also, there's quite a bit of chatter, and I think that's because the blade is so thin and it's not supported very well. So there you have it. I think the main problem with this plane is the blade, which is just too thin and too soft, so it's able to move around way too much. Also, when I remove this, you'll see that the blade isn't supported very well either. So the main question, if you're on a tight budget and you're looking for a cheap block plane, is this the one you should buy? Well, I think the simple answer is no. If you put a little bit of work into it, you might be able to get some planing jobs done that don't require a lot of finesse, but I think there are better options out there. For example, if you check out eBay, there are a lot of old Stanley number 220 block planes out there for under $10. You're probably going to have to put some work into those as well, but you're going to end up with a much better plane. At least now we know. The Buck Brothers 3-inch block plane gets a thumbs down.